I'm Mo Rocca, and I'm excited to announce Season 4 of my podcast, Mobituaries. I've got a whole new bunch of stories to share with you about the most fascinating people and things who are no longer with us. From famous figures who died on the very same day, to the things I wish would die, like buffets. All that and much more. Listen to Mobituaries with Mo Rocca wherever you get your podcasts.
Whether you're a diehard sports fan, a hopeless romantic, or a comedy aficionado, the Xfinity 10G network was made for streaming it all. Worry less about buffering when streaming your favorite shows, movies, or live sports and enjoy a better way to watch. Xfinity gives you a reliable connection for streaming plus all the entertainment you love all in one place. Fear not, because now you can finally sit back, relax, and stream your favorite entertainment and sports like never before with the Xfinity 10G network.
This is Decorating Tips and Tricks. Welcome to Decorating Tips and Tricks. I am Kelly Wilkness. I'm here with Anita Joyce. This is episode 314. You've got style, but which one?
It's the age-old question. What is my style? This is a question we get a lot.
People are really burdened by this question, and I don't want anyone to feel burdened by this question at all. And I don't want you to feel like this episode is forcing you to choose a style or asking you, what is your style? Because we're not, because we are sort of the, I don't want to say anti-style because, man, we've got style. But you know what I'm saying? We are not about defining yourself in a particular style. I think if you've been listening for any period of time, you know that.
Well, okay, let me clarify. I think in the beginning, we talked about defining your style. And here was my personal thinking on this is I think everybody, it works best to for you to figure out what your own style is, put a name on it. And I'm not looking for you to necessarily say that your style is exactly like contemporary or transitional or traditional or country French or coastal. I'm not looking for that so much, but for you to I'd like for everybody to have a name in their mind that describes their particular style and for them to have a good feel for what it includes and what it doesn't include, because I think that's helpful when you're going to design your house. But, I'm not suggesting in any way that you should tightly fit in any particular box. We're not about putting you in a box, but I think defining what you're looking for and maybe more importantly, what you're not looking for is helpful to making your house look cohesive. How's that, Kelly?
That is perfectly put. And that is exactly the way I feel about it too. It is helpful to have a sense, and that's why we're doing this episode today. We are also doing this episode today because it was inspired by one of our listeners, Tracy S. from Newfoundland, Canada.
Hi, Tracy.
Tracy, thank you so much. She initially emailed us with a lovely things to say, but also with a photo of her feeding birds from her hand in the snow. I mean, how darling is that?
Oh.
And what a nice person to be doing that. But yeah. And then Tracy and I had a little bit back and forth in emails, and she told us that she would love to hear an episode about the different sorts of styles, and which got me thinking that a lot of people probably would as well, because as we said in the beginning, this is a burning question. Now, I totally agree with what Anita has said. And I think that people are in a sense burdened by this question because they ask it or they get asked it when they're decorating or when they're starting a new home or moving to a new place. Well, what's your style going to be? And then people are like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Like, I like so many things. I love so many things. I have so many Pinterest boards. I don't really know. So you don't have to fit in to one of these styles is kind of what we're saying, but it is great to know what is out there. So it's best to know the hallmarks of these various defined styles, and then you can venture to create your own, because that is really having your own true signature style. And that's what we want to help you get to, a point where you've made your house so much you that it is not necessarily reflective of a generalized style. It's got the hallmarks of some, but it's got a lot of personality. It's got a lot of you.
Okay. Well, let's get started. Which one do you want to start with?
Well, I just think since we're here with you, we should start with the French country, which I have a lot of too. But, Anita is, deep into the French country.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I have to say that I have often referred to my particular style as farmhouse French versus country French because my style is not exactly the traditional country French style. So let's talk about what that is.
Well, which is exactly what we're talking about, because you have taken that and you've evolved and you made it your own. But if we're saying, if we're giving like the definitions or the hallmarks of these different styles, so what
country French would be the style of a house, a cottage, a maison in the countryside of France. So these would be more of the rustic things. These are not the fine French furniture that you would find maybe in Paris of the city folks, but this would be the people out, the farmers, people that didn't have lots of money. So this would be working furniture. This would be rustic furniture. You might have a pine armoire here. This might be kind of, but it's very curved. It's all beautiful things, but this is going to be more the relaxed style. There's going to be rustic baskets and antique pieces, walnut pieces, perhaps, maybe some painted pieces as well. This is where they have a lot of the Provençal colors, red, yellow, a blue, a cornflower blue would be considered traditional colors. And a lot of the vintage things, a lot of the old antique things, if you look at it, you can't tell whether it's French or English. So really, I really recommend people, if they're going for the country French look, to just add a lot of antiques, and it usually works quite well with the French, like old scales that weigh things, cloches, crystal things, wood candlesticks that look antique, stuff like that.
And there's a certain amount of femininity to it. Would I be right in saying that?
Yes. The curve. There's lots of curves. It is a feminine look. It's there's ruffles and there's a softness because most all French furniture is curvy. Not all of it, but a lot of it is.
Okay, and then sometimes it's thought that shabby chic kind of has some French elements in it, or French country elements, and it does. But shabby chic is a little bit, it's a more worn in general. It definitely has a heavy, chippy feel, a lot of patina, lots of florals, lots of white, lots of ruffles, very feminine.
Well, and I like to go back on shabby chic the same way. That style is not as old as country French, but it was developed by Rachel Ashwell in her first book, Shabby Chic. And she's from the UK. But she, I guess, lives mostly does she live in California mostly now? Maybe in New York as well?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Used to have a place in Round Top, but I don't think she has that anymore. So her look is, people confuse it with French style a lot. I think now people use that term to mean French, but if you go back and look at her original style, there really is not a lot of French things there. It's a very English, American, more straight lines, but a lot of chippy painted furniture, lots of pastels, lots of florals, that's when the slip covers became to be super hot, but definitely, and people think of it too as the whites, but really white was just a part of it. She definitely had lots of florals, small prints, and a lot of pastel colors in there as well.
Yeah, and a lot of painted furniture, in which I also think the painted white furniture is really, the shabby chic. I mean, you come, oh gosh, I don't know. Still now to today, but certainly maybe 8-10 years ago, if you went to the Rose Bowl, I mean, there would be booth after booth where whatever these people could get their hands on, whether it be a bird cage or, a broom, they spray painted it white and sandpapered a little bit off. And it was, this whole shabby chic look, which, if just like any look, if you go too far, it's like, there's just too much of it. It may be too much of a good thing. So,
well, I think the look really, the original look was old furniture that was painted where the paint was
Right.
chipping off, not something
Right.
that had been made to look old, but
that's what I'm saying. It kind of got, it was,
yes,
it was
been
so
hijacked.
overdone.
Shall we say
Hijacked.
that?
Yeah. Hijacked.
Mhm.
Okay. And farmhouse got a little hijacked too. So,
Yes.
farmhouse style came on so strong.
Yes.
Not too long ago. It's still here, but I think it's morphing into this much cooler, a modern farmhouse look. But, a true farmhouse look, like you'd be out on a real farm and all the things would be really authentic. And it really wouldn't be quote unquote farmhouse look. It would just be sort of rustic. It is what it is. Because you're actually, on if not a working farm, at least a home that, is in a farm setting, and there are a lot of galvanized pieces. The furniture is, definitely has a collected feel. There's really nothing matchy about it.
Simple fabrics. I picture
simple.
ticking, a lot of mattress ticking fabric everywhere. Just very
sack.
Right. Well, which is a fabulous fabric to use. I love using grain sack for upholstery because although a lot of these fabrics made from flax a lot of these fabrics are 100 years old or older, they hold up so well to use. It's astounding how good that fabric is.
Right. So then the farmhouse, we galvanize things. I always say pictures, little stools,
enamelware.
Sorts of accents, enamelware, great point. Things like this. Again, it's pretty simple lines along, maybe the shabby chic, more American or English type of lines, not as curvy as the French. But I think what happened with the farmhouse is that then it sort of slid into this mass-produced, too cute, signs, and everything was galvanized. So we kind of got a little, I don't want to say diluted because it was not diluted. It was overpopulated, but the look just kind of, it was just too much. They tried to do too many things in the farmhouse look. Yeah.
Overdone. So and there were a lot of things made in the name of farmhouse that really weren't
in the name of farmhouse.
They were called farmhouse, but they really just weren't that nice. But that's what happens. Something becomes popular and then it's mass produced somewhere else. And it's just, it kind of doesn't really look that great, but it's kind of that look and people have it for a while. And then when that look goes out, they're thinking, oh, this wasn't really made that well to begin with. I don't really want to keep this.
Right. So what I'm saying by using that word diluted, it kind of diluted the effect of the real authentic stuff because it was just too much of it. So even if you came upon, a real old galvanized oversized picture, it didn't seem that special because you could get one at Target for, half the cost
right. And so like at Round Top, I love that they sell old, for example, chicken feeders and then they, remorph it and use it for something else. I mean, it's pretty cool how they, my style in particular was really inspired by shopping at Round Top because they would have these French chairs out in a field with a hay bale behind it and maybe this chicken feeder next to it. And I thought, I kind of like that rustic and refined together.
Yes, it's fantastic. And so I think, what Anita's saying about reusing these interesting farm actual pieces of equipment and things like that started the more modern farmhouse look, where it's there's maybe even a little splash of industrial mixed in there. And we'll talk about that one too, but it's definitely a lot cleaner lines. It's not cutesy. There's no fresh eggs for sale signs. It is clean. There's some maybe exposed wood, lots of whites. There's just a really nice feel about the whole farmhouse style because it's very welcoming and it's sort of embracing of the family and things like that. So it's a great look. It kind of takes the cues from sort of provincial looks for the ultimate mix of like the highs and the lows. It's a really nice contrast with the modern farmhouse. I'm really liking that look now.
Yes. And while we're talking about very traditional looks before we go the other direction, I wanted to throw in Gustavian because it is something I adore, but it's not something that a lot of people know about. It's not a very commonly used style. The real Gustavian antiques are not as easy to find. They weren't, the French things were made everywhere, not just in France. So the French style chairs you can find everywhere, but the Gustavian look really wasn't copied other places. So to find the real Gustavian antiques, they're from Sweden, and these were originally came into style around the time King Gustav III was reigning, which was, I think, late 1700s. Anyway, long story short, those pieces, the real authentic pieces, are extremely expensive. So if you want a Gustavian look, I very much recommend that you go with reproduction pieces. There's a lot of beautiful reproduction pieces, but even those, to be honest with you, tend to be expensive. So keep that in mind. But the Gustavian look, King Gustav spent some time in Versailles in France, and he really loved that look, and he wanted to bring it back to Sweden with him. But the problem was all these beautiful, rich French woods like the walnuts, they didn't have there in Sweden. They had a lot of pine and some other woods that, didn't look as the same way. So they ended up kind of copying some of the lines, but then painting everything a gray or a white, and kind of came up with their own look. And if you've seen a Mora clock, that's kind of part of that Gustavian look. It's a gorgeous look. It works so well with so many different other styles. It's a very clean, simple look, but it's got a lot of personality to it. And it goes very, very well with French things. So that's kind of my, what I am crushing on now too. But that's a beautiful look.
And so let's go into industrial look. So that really got its origins from sort of loft living, so this warehouse vibe, this factory vibe with metal elements thrown in, and it's somewhat clean, usually best shown in a bigger space. So I mean, you could do it on a smaller scale, but to really achieve the look, it's sort of it needs to be sort of in a loft or someplace with a lot of square footage. It somewhat tends to the masculine and minimal. Neutral color palette. If you can pull in some cool reclaimed machinery, like, I don't know, like things with sprockets and things like that, you can have a little bit of a steampunk feel.
That's what I was going to say. Steampunk. Yes.
Yeah. Which can be really cool. Unfinished metals, lots of grays, as you would imagine, some black, forged iron. It's a really great look. I like it for the cleanness of it. It is a little, I think it would be a little hard for me to live in that. Look, tends to be darker. But it is a very cool look.
I love the industrial look too. And I love lofts. And I always enjoy looking online to see for sale, not that I'm going to buy it, but lofts, just to kind of see how they've done the lofts. And maybe there's a brick exposed wall. Maybe it was an old warehouse at one time and they've converted it to an open space. Maybe and a lot of times they have exposed AC ducts in the top, that sort of thing. A friend of mine, I just always loved her apartment here in the Heights. It was actually a church, and they broke it up into individual apartments, and she had some exposed brick and some other very industrial elements in the space, and it was just stunning, just absolutely beautiful, very sought after building. And I love it. And I think a lot of these, the industrial style, I think is a clean, simple look. And I think it's something that really you can use with a lot of different styles mixed with it. I love it a lot.
Oh yeah, I think it's easy to mix the pieces. You could definitely,
because you were saying
bookshelf, or I think even my coffee table, although it's gold, but it's kind of this very muted gold, but it has very industrial lines. It's just metal. And it's just a rectangle.
So what I'm saying, right. So about I think this is a nice style to mix with other warmer styles that are maybe a little more a cozy style. It's not a cozy style. It's it can tend toward the cold, but it's easy to warm up if you mix in some French or something else, or some shabby chic or something else. So, I mean, that's what we want to talk about here is you can take elements of one of these styles and put it with the elements of another one and create your own style for your own fantastic look.
Don't you just love a great recommendation from a friend? Well, we're delighted to be recommending these companies and their wonderful products to you today. And let them know your friends at DTT sent you. Pesto pork chops over Parmesan polenta. Not that easy to say, but oh so easy to make with Green Chef. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit company for eating well, and we have such a great deal for you. You're going to save $250. Listen on for the details on that. Green Chef makes eating well easy for any lifestyle, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just looking to eat more balanced meals. You know, we're getting into the busy holiday season, so it's a perfect time to have Green Chef help you out. Let Green Chef take the work out of eating clean this holiday season with their chef-crafted, nutritionist-approved recipes featuring fresh ingredients and nothing artificial. And you know what? You don't have to lose track of your healthy eating habits during the holidays. Every Green Chef customer gets a free session with their registered dietitians who will walk you through how to make clean eating work for you. So sign up for your free session and start on the road towards better health today. And that deal I want to tell you about, visit greenchef.com/DTT250 and use the code DTT250 for $250 off your order. So that's greenchef.com/DTT250 and use the code DTT250 for $250 off your order. BritBox just keeps getting better. The new Archie is amazing. And it's not the comics. It's about Cary Grant. Archie is the brand new limited series starring Jason Isaacs as Archie Leach, the man who became Cary Grant. From the award-winning screenwriter of Philomena, Archie tells Grant's born in Britain, made in Hollywood story, the dramatic grit to glamour transformation that led him to become one of the most famous people in the world. You are going to absolutely love the acting, but also the styling, the outfits, the scenery. It's the first time his story has been told in collaboration with his daughter Jennifer Grant and ex-wife Diane Cannon. The performances from Jason Isaacs and the rest of the cast are amazing, and it's only available on BritBox. So sign up for BritBox today to stream Archie and other fan favorites from any device. And we have a special limited time offer for our U.S. and Canadian listeners. Get 50% off, yes, that's 50% off your first month when you sign up for a monthly plan. But only if you go to BritBox.com and use our promotion code DTT at checkout. You're going to love Archie. So head over right now and get 50% off your first month of BritBox. Use the promotion code DTT at BritBox.com. Okay, I think I just did the last one. Do you want to do another style?
Oh, how about minimalist? Very clean lines.
Oh, minimalist always makes me feel a little sad.
Not a lot. Minimalist, and I know some minimalists where it's a big room and there's 2 pieces of furniture in it. And you're thinking, you know, you could put something else in here. And then, you know, my friend says, no, I'm good.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when I'm putting away the Christmas decorations, that's whenever I really think I should just become a minimalist in all things. But I don't think I could live with that, just like because I just like I like decor. I just like things and I like to move them around. I don't like clutter, but it would be a hard style for me to have. But, you know, I think if you had the right house, maybe with a big, long bank of windows and you could see the outside and it was, you know, more about letting the outside in sort of thing, could be pretty spectacular.
Oh, I think so. And I mean, there's certainly a part of me that really the minimalist style appeals to me. Here's what I think happened with the whole minimalist style to begin with is so many styles are a backlash to the previous style. So I think before minimalist came in, I think things were getting more and more and more cluttered, layered and layer and layer. And the style was just getting to be a little overstuffed. And I think people started feeling it's almost like the reaction to Victorian style, which was layer, 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 and,
right.
You know, gilding, gilding, gilding. And then then the craftsman style came out and said, no, let's go cleaner, simpler, straighter lines, not so much stuff. And so that's what I think about the minimalist style as a reaction to the traditional style that had kind of overstuffed rooms. But now a traditional style is much cleaner looking than it used to be. So I don't really think you have to go all the way to the minimalist style to get a cleaner look, but that's definitely what that is. A minimalist would be, very few things in a room, clean lines, nothing frilly, nothing, just simplistic. I'm trying to think of another word for it, but there's not a lot of furniture in the room, and there certainly are not a lot of things sitting out. And, if you were looking in a minimalistic kitchen, probably there just wouldn't be anything on the countertop anywhere. Maybe a piece of soap sitting out somewhere, but that's, that's kind of the look. And and for some people, I think it's really perfect for them.
Yeah. And, particularly if you collected modern art or something like that, like that would be so spectacular. You just have a great sofa, and then you just have one fabulous piece of art. Yeah, it could be great. I mean, not something you're going to want to have when you have a lot of little kids, or I guess that would be harder to have that. But
you don't have them knocking your tchotchkes over because there aren't any.
You don't have any tchotchkes, but they will have tchotchkes. They have their own tchotchkes.
Yes, they do come with them.
Here's a one, but then they kind of leads into the other. Contemporary and modern. Oftentimes those are confused.
Glad you're talking about those.
Yeah, and the terms are sort of mixed up. So, what is contemporary? Contemporary style is just, as the word implies, completely of the moment, while modern interior design styles can, sort of mean anything from like the 50s through the 80s. So contemporary interior design tend to also have a little bit more freedom, as modern is a little more fixed around like squared graphic lines and a certain time period.
Yeah, I think contemporary is a little more open to interpretation. It's a little more fluid than modern. And, it kind of reminds me then to go one step more, to go transitional is kind of part contemporary.
Right.
And part traditional. So that's even one more step away from the modern.
Right.
Yeah.
So contemporary and modern are like maybe a little bit closer, and then traditional and transitional are a little bit closer, in looks to the untrained eye. But now you all have trained eyes. So, you got it now.
Yeah. And this is something, if you search on Pinterest, that might help you with some of these, because it's hard for us to communicate all of this without getting to see it. Can you even believe that we podcast about decorating without pictures? It does.
Yeah.
I mean, we were told we couldn't do this, and we said, I think we're going to try.
And then we said, we're doing it.
We're doing it.
You're not the boss of us, or at least
That's
one of us said that. Yeah. So, now that we've mentioned those two, so we've got traditional. So that is, that's rooted in traditional interior design ideas. It has a lot of symmetry, beautiful fabrics, and maybe some family heirlooms. There's layering,
antiques, vintage items.
Yes.
Some luscious fabrics often.
Right.
Some rich colors, perhaps, and some rich, beautiful fabrics.
If you think of a designer that is really rooted in traditional design, is maybe a Bunny Williams, something like that. What do you think?
Yeah, and so country French and English and American. I mean, I think traditional is a big word, is a big bucket, I should say, that a lot of designs fall under. That would be something that's based on the past, is what I would say. And these are classics.
Right. Yeah. And you really, I mean, any of these looks are fantastic, but you so can't go wrong with that one. And then there's the transitional, which Anita alluded to. So do you want to talk about what the difference is there?
Well, the transitional has one foot in traditional and one foot in contemporary. So it's the mixing of the two. And this is a fun look. And when I think of transitional, I like to think of, although this could be its own style also, I like to think of a beautiful Paris apartment that has all this heavy detail on the moldings inside and maybe some beautiful French chairs, but then right smack dab in the middle, there is a leather and chrome sofa in the center of the room with maybe, a modern also coffee table in there as well. So it's kind of mixing two styles that, are not exactly the same, the now with the older, and just kind of seeing what you come up with there.
Okay, see how great this episode is? Not only do we hopefully have our listeners thinking, but now I'm thinking. So I have always sort of said about my house, I don't say it's Victorian because even though the shell of it is Victorian, the interior is really not. There's a little bit of, but they're antique furnishings, not necessarily Victorian. But now what do I have? The leather chaise, the heavy gilded moldings, a modern coffee table, a French shaped sofa and chairs. So maybe I have to say now, instead of, what was I saying, farmhouse glam, now I have to say transitional.
That's right. I think you might have to.
See how you're just creating the style as you go along, as you see fit. I'm not going to go on and on and on about that chaise and what it's done for my living room, because I will talk about that another day, but it's fabulous. You guys.
But she's already talked about it in a previous episode.
It's now everyone's favorite place to sit.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
and it's now next to the kitchen chair. I think the second favorite place to sit anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How about boho? We haven't talked about that yet, have we? Bohemia.
No. And there's kind of a newer neutral version of boho, but boho, I think of a gypsy caravan and all the things that you can picture that would be in there. That's boho. Rich colors, tapestries, rugs. Think about something where you would, maybe kind of 1800s, kind of all these kind of exotic things, maybe from world travels. And you've got them in this caravan and you're just going, across the country. I don't know what the gypsies were doing, but they were in there with their tapestries and their rugs and beautiful things from around the world. Lots of color, lots of pattern.
Yeah. Fun flea market finds and global touches.
Kind of a mishmash, really.
Yeah. Macrame.
And a lot. I think of it as kind of lots of layers. I think of it as, it's the opposite. I would call that probably the opposite of minimalist too, because I see it also with lots of different patterns together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the rich colors. Unless you're doing the newer version that's kind of more neutral. Mm-hmm.
Right. And it can tend to be a little feminine too. It could go that way. It could be sort of more globally inspired, or it can be a little bit more feminine because you're having these layers and there's ruffles and florals and things like that.
I'm picturing
it's a really
fringe.
Fun. Yeah. It's a fun, really, I think it's a great sort of really youthful look. I think it's lovely. It's a real breath of fresh air.
I'm picturing, tassels too. Tassels and fringe. That's what I'm thinking.
Now, mid-century modern was so hot here in LA and probably a lot of, I think,
everywhere.
Yeah. Well. Think of Mad Men. Think of, Don Draper's apartment. Mid-century, it's really the best of the 50s and the 60s, and a lot of Danish inspired furnishings, if not real Danish furnishings. So you've heard that sort of like Danish modern, if you, maybe your mom or your grandma had like the Danish modern furniture set or something like that. Like that is what people are scrounging around like crazy for to get at places like the Rose Bowl and Round Top. Very popular. It's kind of segueing its way out now, again, because we feel like it came on so strong and people were doing their entire houses in mid-century modern. Not really making it their own, just like incorporating that whole style, like hardcore. And then just like it did in the 50s and 60s when it went out, and what came in, I think colonial maybe.
I'm telling you, it was the bicentennial. It was colonial American.
It was the death of mid-century modern. But now, it came back. But then if you did your house all like that, now, even in 2019, now it looks dated again. So again, another example of where you want to be mixing in a lot of different things. It can be this really cool lines. I mean, it is a very distinct furniture look, kind of thin and almost like the reddy orange look of the Danish inspired look, don't you think, Anita? Not a lot of ornament on the furniture itself.
Yes,
clean lines. It could be rounded lines, but very clean. So, that can mix with a lot of different things. That could mix with industrial. That could certainly mix with boho. That could even mix in with modern farmhouse.
Yeah, let's talk about coastal too. I think that's another popular style, and that's very popular, obviously, along the coast. I think of some place like Florida where that would be very popular, and the colors make me think of the sea and the sky. There's a lot of blues or aquas, a lot of pastels and whites, and I think of very easy living, carefree materials, because this is something that might actually be, in a house on the beach. I think of wicker and soft colors and very casual living.
Inevitably, with the new year come wellness goals. One very effective and easy to reach goal is to add dose to your wellness regime. Dose is expertly formulated organic wellness shots that support your liver in one delicious drink. Formulated with ingredients clinically shown to support liver health. Potent turmeric, milk thistle, and ginger. There's 0 sugar and 0 calories. Did you know that your liver performs over 500 special functions? Since I learned all that my liver is doing, I started with Dose to support all those vital functions. I take a shot of refreshing Dose 2 times per week to combat everyday toxins from food, meds, alcohol, and unhealthy air. Since starting with Dose about a month ago, I am definitely feeling an overall improvement in my health. So if you want to give Dose a shot and invest in your health like I have, Dose is offering DTT listeners 15% off your first order, plus an additional 15% off if you subscribe for a monthly delivery. That's 30% off your first order. So go to dosedaily.co/DTT and use the code DTT. That's dosedaily.co.co/DTT and use the code DTT. Green Chef is a delicious delight any time of year, but especially during the holidays. What a wonderful vision to behold as the Green Chef boxes on your doorstep. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for eating well. And it makes eating well so easy with plans to fit every lifestyle, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just looking to eat a more balanced diet. So let Green Chef take the work out of eating clean this holiday season. And if you've got guests coming, shop Green Bundles. They're now available at the Green Market. It's your one-stop shop for nutritious grab-and-go breakfasts, including vegan options, brunch kits, wholesome lunches, ready-to-eat snacks, veggie sides, and more. You can feel your best this December and do your best with Green Chef because they offset 100% of the delivery emissions as well as 100% of the plastic in every box. Go to greenchef.com/60DTT and use the code 60DTT and get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. greenchef.com/60DTT and use the code 60DTT to get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. Yeah. And again, just like what we're saying about all the styles, don't get too cutesy with it. Don't have shells everywhere. Don't have signs, that beach this way, things like that. Coastal style can be very sophisticated as well. Maybe you bring it in the navies and blues to evoke the sea, and maybe you have just really some large piece of coral inside your fireplace or something like that. Something spectacular. It's a beautiful look, and I love the wickers and whatnot. And when it's very geographically appropriate, I think it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
One look that is, was kind of popular, maybe if you were into design, probably in the 90s or so, is Hollywood Regency. And you don't really see that a lot. It's a very bold, and Kelly Wearstler is one of the designers, or the top designer that I can think of our day, that is doing that look. It was popular back in the 40s and even into the 60s. And then again, had this resurgence in the 90s. She did a lot of hotels in the Hollywood Regency look. It's kind of Art Deco-y, kind of interesting silhouettes on the furniture, like almost slightly cartoonish sometimes. Some of the chairs and whatnot, like maybe oversized, or just like they're kind of in odd shapes. Definitely has
See Ginger Rogers maybe dancing on top of the desk and jumping up and down off of it. That's what I'm thinking.
Exactly.
Fred Astaire there catching her as she jumps off.
Right. It has this very high polished glam. There's maybe some French mixed in. Color. Definitely some color and some bling.
Mm-hmm. I think of mirrored surfaces too.
Be dancing on the mirrored surface. That would be fun.
Tap dancing, of course.
Tap dancing. Yeah. And then there's, of course, eclectic, which is kind of, I mean, it's a look on its own. It's not just like, hey, let's see what's in the garage and pull it all together. But, it is definitely, even if you're having an eclectic style, it is curated because it's a lot of different things, but they have to work together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of what we're saying too. I mean, that eclectic look, eclectic means combining different styles together, and it definitely can be done. And this is really what we're suggesting that you do, is come up with your own eclectic style, pull elements from different looks that you like and bring them together. And then, you can put your name on it. I mean, you can call it whatever you want. But I think my feeling on it is, this is your house. You want it to have your personality. And I think rather than copying somebody, I love the idea of everyone kind of creating their own style and being proud of it and enjoying your home and showing it off to people and sharing it with your friends and family. And I think that's best done when it really is this unique blend of what you love. And, when you pull that together, it's going to be like nobody else's house. And the beauty of that, when you come up with your own style, is you weren't following the trends. So when the trends go out, your house is, where it was before. It's your style.
I don't have to say anything. That was perfect. And what a good one to end on, which is eclectic, which is in a sense, like, as you just said, what we're talking about is for creating your own style. So because today's entire episode was inspired by a listener question. So that's our listener question today. Tracy got a whole episode for her, but we do have a couple of crushes to share today before we go. Do you want to start, Anita?
Well, mine are once again food. I just love.
Are you fasting again because you've been thinking about food a lot?
I did yesterday, not today. So the green tea mints, I have two. The green tea mints at Trader Joe's. And I know not everybody has a Trader Joe's near them. So my other thing, if you're on the gluten-free train, like Kelly and I are trying to do, Joy ice cream cones, gluten-free. Oh. And that's the brand. And they taste just like the regular ice cream cones. I had given those up several years ago. And when I found these, I thought, oh no, now I'm in trouble. Does
it come, it's just the cone, or it comes with the ice cream in it?
No, it's just a box of cones like the old style cones. Only these are gluten-free.
Okay, so that's good. You'll be ready. Everybody will be ready for the summertime with their gluten-free cones. Love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fun. How about yours?
Well, I have one that is, I don't know even where I heard about this, but it is a vitamin supplement for your plants, whether it be indoor or outdoor. It is amazing, you guys. It's called Super Thrive, and it has been around a long time. In fact, it won the gold medal at the 1940s World's Fair.
I think I used to buy that.
Okay, and it comes in this little bottle, maybe it's maybe 3.5 inches tall, and you only need literally a drop in a large container of water, particularly for house plants. I had this ficus it had been underwatered and then overwatered, and sometimes I'd forget to open the shade and it would get no sun, and it was just not thriving, let's just say. And I used Super Thrive, and it was amazing. But
wow,
you're going to crack up. I'll put the link in the show notes. But when you see this bottle,
I know I've used to buy that. Yeah,
it has the picture of the inventor on it, who is this little old man, and it's like this picture of this little man. In a sense, it's the worst label possible. All the words are so super tiny, but it's so classic wonderful. Like, they should probably never change it. It has the gold medal on it, and then this picture of the man who invented it. It has it's a vitamin solution, which includes kelp, and it does wonders. I mean, there are so many great reviews about it, so I highly recommend it.
And thanks so much for hanging out with us again today. And remember, we're here to inspire you to create a beautiful home. Until next time.
I want to remind you that we are available for design consults. We take on your design dilemmas, questions, renovations, any project you want to talk about, any room, any space. We are here for you. And we really do enjoy doing these. And I think we've helped people a lot. So if you want to sign up for a consult, head to the link in the show notes. It's decoratingtipsandtricks.com/consult. We hope to talk to you soon.